The following is a presentation of the Best Station. The views and comments made in the following program do not necessarily represent the views and comments of the Best Station.
Okay, welcome everyone to show 5 of the Fast Pitch. I am your co-host, MC Brown.
I am Eric Lenneberg.
And we're here with a very special guest. We want to plug real quick our social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter at The Fast Pitch MLB or Facebook.com/The Fast Pitch, which is hosted by our parent station and wonderful friend and producer, Craig Best. He is at Facebook.com/The Best Station. Without Craig's help and platform, we would not be here to bring you the show, this great show we have lined up for you. And we want to thank Craig, thank all of you listeners. We have a very special treat for you all today. I'm going to throw it to Eric. You tell us about our guests, sir.
Our guest tonight is Jason Himelstein. Jason, analyst for ESPN, a longtime baseball man. He's been baseball his whole life. He's been a coach in the major leagues. He's an assistant coach for Tom Robeson, assistant bench coach. He's a coach of young kids, and I don't know anyone in my life who does more for kids than Jason.
Welcome, Jason.
Well, thank you, fellas. That's quite an introduction with a couple of guys like you that are, legendary and have also done so much and contributed so much to the game of baseball and promoting it for folks. It's wonderful to be on the show, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. Let me go into our first topic tonight. We want to talk about the Hall of Fame. As you know, the voting was just recently done. It will be announced on January 5th. And some of the names that are going to be in there this year, Ken Griffey Jr., and I'd say he's a lock. Trevor Hoffman, great relief pitcher.
Very great.
Also, Edgar Martinez from the Seattle Mariners. A lot of controversy because he was the DH most of his career, so we'll talk about him. Curt Schilling is up this year. And finally, Mike Piazza. What are your thoughts, Jason?
Well, I think Mike Piazza is another lock, not quite a lock like Ken Griffey Jr., who, in my opinion, in fact, I was talking to Tom Robson about it today because Tom actually coached him when he was with the Cincinnati Reds for 1 year. Tom was, and got to work with him every day. And I got to watch Tom work with him a few times. Mm-hmm. And I just don't see a guy that has done more than he has done in the last 50 years. I just think he's a 5-tool guy, legitimate, and his numbers speak for themselves. I like you said, I think he's an absolute lock.
Right.
And as far as Piazza goes, there have been rumors about the PEDs and all of that stuff, but the guy never tested dirty. He was drafted in, the 62nd round or something?
Last player drafted that year, yeah.
Just on pure work habits and dedication and will himself to be, maybe one of the best power hitting catchers of all time.
Yes.
There's been many fans, I think, that have arguing statistically for sure by that measure. Piazza should already be in there. I think 2013 was that the first time he was eligible, and that's just a veil of suspicion is keeping him out. And I think it's just. I mean, if you don't have any proof on there, that's ridiculous.
No,
I mean,
he should be in there.
You got to give the man his fair due, and it's
interesting.
travesty.
They when people deny it, but then they have a credit card receipt that it was delivered to your house, and you paid for it with your credit card and signed for the delivery. That's pretty good proof.
Yeah.
That you were using the juice. But Mike never tested dirty, and in fact, Tom Robson was telling me just today. He said every day he would go in the gym. They had a gym in the clubhouse at Shea Stadium, and he would work out every day.
Yeah.
He did it on guts and on work habits and just raw will. And, to taint him with that PED, I think is really abundantly unfair.
I agree.
I've talked with some passionate fans who wouldn't even be, fans of say even the team, just like team fans, like from either the Dodgers or Mets, he's just the baseball fans in general are just saying one of them in particular, I can't believe he's not in there, and these are just pure baseball fans that for the integrity of the game to say, hey, this man, he belongs in the Hall. And,
yeah, there's no question to us.
Yeah, and I think this might be the year that he gets in, 2016, hopefully for his sake. But
Jason, how do you feel about Edgar Martinez? Does being a DH most of his career keep him from the Hall? Is it legitimate, or what do you think?
Well, the DH was put in, I think, to sort of juice up the game a little bit from fan interest point of view, because pitchers don't hit, and most fans, I think, the majority of the fans are more offensive minded and like to see home runs and more hitting and that type of thing.
Right.
So he's part of the game, and if you talk about the quintessential designated hitter, he's the guy.
He is the man.
What a tremendous hitter, and there's almost it's almost kind of like being a relief pitcher in the sense, that you come in to situations that's difficult, and you have not been in the rhythm of the game, and all your job is to hit. You come in and it's all, in some ways I've heard position players say that it's difficult to pinch hit, when you're not used to it.
Right.
To come off that
I
cold,
would say
yeah.
he made an art out of it, and my take would be that I would vote for him.
Yeah.
To tie this back,
I think the numbers support it.
To tie this back in, also, using those two great hitters like Edgar and Mike Piazza, we want to get your take. We've asked this to our fans on social media and stuff too, as well, Jason. Out of all, obviously not counting the ones eligible for the first time, like Ken Griffey Jr., which I think we'd all agree was, surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. But out of all time, Jason, who would you say is the biggest travesty that belongs in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Well, as a kid that grew up in the 60s, and Eric and I are both natives of Phoenix,
Right.
and I was a gigantic Yankee fan, and we would watch the game of the week with Dizzy Dean and Pee Wee Reese. And I remember in 1961, the famous home run race between Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. And I watched Maris and Mantle and the M&M boys, and, Maris broke Babe Ruth's record. And Ford Frick, who was the commissioner, had been a friend of Babe Ruth, so he said since it was 162 games and not 154 games, he was going to do that famous, which I think now is a joke, asterisk.
Yes.
And Maris, came out. I believe he is from South Dakota.
He is, yeah.
And he was Roger Eugene Maris. I remember because I followed him, and when you watched him play, he was the most valuable player. Of course, he led the league in home runs in '61. I think he was the most valuable player one year. He also was a really good right fielder. Had a great arm. He covered ground, and I think that he has been slighted.
I agree. His defense definitely overlooked, and he won the MVP in 1960, the year before the home run record, and he won again in '61. But
three-time All-Star, and he won the Gold Glove in 1960.
That's right.
Well, and the other thing is the insane amount of pressure he was under in '61 with all the people pulling against him because they wanted Mickey Mantle to break the record.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
and remember Mantle got hurt late in the season. And the press had some kind of a phony fight between the two of them, of course, which never existed.
Yeah, that's right.
Later it was found that they were actually very good friends.
Right. They share an apartment together in New York.
Right. And Mantle protected him. Think about being a pitcher, and you're facing the Yankee lineup. Are you going to walk Roger Maris to get to Mickey Mantle?
No, not at all.
So Mickey, I think, really helped him with his record, and I think Roger knew that. But I really believe Roger Maris, because of the fact that he broke a record that I think most of us growing up, Eric, maybe you feel the same way. The Babe Ruth record seemed unbreakable.
It did. I thought nobody would ever come close.
It was just no one. I think Jimmy Fox came close one year.
Yeah, he hit 58
right?
one year. Yeah.
You probably have to look that up. You're like an encyclopedia.
That's why they call me the doctor of baseball
He is
knowledge.
the doctor of baseball, Jason.
Both of you guys are phenomenal with what you know and what you're able to draw upon. It's just, I was listening to your other shows, and I'll tell you, for baseball fans, if you're really a baseball fan, this is the venue, because you guys really talk, old school baseball, which I think most baseball fans are old school.
Yeah, they sure are, and we thank you for that.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Jason. Yeah, we try to give a little bit of, that old school touch, with obviously the new school information and stuff too, and just kind of make it a fun show for everybody involved.
Yeah. Before we leave Maris, I wanted to mention, I don't think a lot of people realize, Jason, I know you and I do, he was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals and became an integral part of their championship team in 1967.
Yes, he did, and they loved him. They loved him there. In fact, so much so that I believe Mr. Bush, the owner of the Cardinals, gave Maris a Budweiser distributorship in Florida.
He sure did. When
he left the Cardinals.
Right, when he retired from baseball.
All of his teammates loved him. He was a really good teammate. He played hard. He showed up. He played, with passion and, rarely made mental mistakes. He, in my view, it's really a joke that he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the people would argue like he had those, obviously there's no mistaking it is the historic season, but also just like they would be arguing against those two really big years, 60, 61, and then he would go on to just kind of have, seasons afterwards that obviously wouldn't come close to that. But
they were still great years.
He won 3 World Series rings. I mean, there's a lot of accomplishments and awards to Roger Maris. I think everybody who's a fan of baseball knows of the name Roger Maris and what it means to baseball. Yeah, it's kind of is baffling to believe that when you mention his name that it's not
in there.
In the
Yeah,
Hall of Fame. I was shocked to learn of that.
I want to go to one more name, Hall of Fame candidate for this year, and you mentioned Edgar Martinez and the specialist role that he played. Trevor Hoffman, a relief pitcher and a great relief pitcher, is up this year. What do you think of him, Jason?
Well, Trevor Hoffman was so dominating. And again, Rod Beck, remember Rod Beck was a really good friend of mine, and, he killed himself.
Yes.
And these, I talked to him one time, and I said, Rod, what is the key to you being able to do that? Remember, he was with the Giants, and he came in, and he said, Jay, we all have to have short memories.
That's right.
Because we come in, the game's on the line, and if we mess up, then we're a goat and we get ripped by the press, and everybody hates us. If we come in and save the game, we're the hero and everybody loves us. He said, so the highs and lows are incredible. And, in this game, as you guys know better than me, or as well as me, the mental toughness and the makeup is such a large part of the game, particularly in a closer, like Trevor Hoffman.
Right.
And in my view, for him to be able to come in over the length of time he did with the consistency he showed and the composure that he had on the mound, I think he's absolutely a Hall of Fame candidate and ought to be elected. That's my vote.
And this is his first year eligible. I believe he'll be right there with Griffey getting. And I want to say one more thing about Trevor. We worked several spring trainings together at Peoria Stadium, Mark and I did. And Trevor Hoffman would go out to dinner with you, and he didn't want to sit in the back booth in the private. He liked fans coming up and asking for autographs. And he told me one time, if it wasn't for the fans, we wouldn't be here. So I love the fans. That's the kind of guy he is.
Well, you know what, and I've heard that from everybody. I've never met him.
Mm-hmm.
I've never met him, but everyone that I know, like you guys that know him, say the same thing. He's like just a super nice, very humble, modest guy that worked hard and was really a professional, kind of a lunch bucket type of guy, and I have nothing but respect. I don't know him personally, unfortunately, but being a big fan of his, and if you just look at his numbers and what he achieved, it's awfully hard to not vote for him.
Yeah, no. Right before we go to station break here, I just want to add that I had the pleasure of meeting him twice at the same Peoria Stadium. Just on two, separate occasions just as a fan. I mean, I wasn't working on those days. And he was, as Eric said, he was real young. I think either his first or second year, he's out there. He's just laying in the outfield berm with the fans. Yeah. He's in there, but he was very approachable, very friendly with fans. Another time he was leaving the gate, and there was fans and stuff too. I remember him saying to other fans and myself, I can't get you now. I'll get you when I come back. And he wasn't a jerk when he came back, because there have been some players, I can mention a name, Ricky Henderson, but who would strut right past you. But you got Trevor Hoffman, I think, as an ambassador, and I think that's how a lot of these baseball writers are voting, as an ambassador and as a character man. I can't, outside of, off the top of my head, outside of the late, great Tony Gwynn, another great Padre, you wouldn't find him a higher character, in my opinion, than Trevor Hoffman.
Tony Gwynn used to hit in my batting cage. Tom Robson was the floating minor league hitting coordinator for the Padres. And he would bring Tony Gwynn over and Ray Holbert. Remember Ray Holbert?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know Ray.
And Ray is a great guy. Ray would come over, and Ray was such a nice guy. He would hit in my cage, which I put on my tennis court. And after he was done working out, he would work out with my son Justin and his friends, who were all Little League.
Oh, man.
And he would get them all in the cage. But I wanted to tell you about one guy that Tom Robson and Bobby Valentine have talked about. They talk about autographs with kids and stuff. Was Nolan Ryan.
Wow, that surprises me.
Tom Robson told me when they would go places and get off the bus, as they pulled to the ballpark, no matter, because sometimes the fans would meet him at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning, whatever it was. He said Nolan Ryan would stand and sign autographs for kids for as long as there were kids there.
That is amazing.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah. Now, that's just, to me, like you guys were talking about, that's the epitome of class.
Yes.
He never turned down a kid for an autograph.
Wow.
He said, if a kid comes over and wants an autograph, I'm going to give him one.
That's a sign of, those are the type of guys you want representing the game.
That's right.
Sure.
That's right.
Exactly. And, when you think about it, is there anyone more iconic than Nolan Ryan?
No, not at all.
I'm going to find a bigger legend.
What a wonderful person he is, and again, he's one of those guys that, he might be one of the best pitchers of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you don't mind hanging with us a little bit, Jason, we're going to cut to our station break here, and we're just going to pay the bills, and we'll be right back. Right before, I'm going to send a very special little bit of trivia, our special Who Am I segment. Dr. Eric's going to take it away, then we're going to go to station break, and we'll be right back.
Okay, here we go. Who am I? Give you a couple hints. I was on the Little League and high school state championships in Arizona. I played for a College World Series champion with Arizona State and a Major League Baseball World Champion with the New York Mets. Okay, this last summer, I managed a Collegiate League champion and was named Manager of the Year. And I was hired by the San Diego Padres as a catching coordinator in 2007. And so when we come back, I'll reveal who am I.
With a name like the best station, it has to be good.
Maris is ready. Here's the pitch. It's going, it's in there. A new Major League record, 61 home runs by Roger Maris.
Hi, kids. That sure was a day for me. Part of the thrill of baseball. The kind of real excitement I've put into my great new game by Pressman, Action Baseball.
The score is 2-2. You're up at bat. The pitcher's set, and he can pitch. Fastball, slow ball, curve. Here it comes. A hot single to right. And the next one, a strike. The pitch, a smashing double to left field. Another run batted in. All the skill and excitement of World Series when you play Roger Maris Action Baseball by Pressman. Now you can hit home runs just like Roger Maris.
Yes, kids. There's nothing like the thrill of baseball. And now it's yours.
Get Roger Maris Action Baseball today, $2.98. Oh boy, a Pressman toy.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
And we're back. We just also want to thank Facebook.com/TheBestStation. Once again, Craig Best, our wonderful friend and producer. Also, you can tweet us at TheFastPitchMLB on Twitter, Facebook.com/TheFastPitch. We want to hear your feedback, especially on these shows with our great guests here, Jason, as well as previous shows. You can listen to them at any time. All those are archived on our Facebook, and the links are on our Twitter. So whatever social media platform you have, we want to thank you all for listening. And Eric, Dr. Eric, you got our Who Am I reveal here. Sir.
Who Am I reveal? I want to just mention one more of the hints. He may be the only person in history, he's the only one I know of, that played on the Little League, high school state championships, a College World Series win with Arizona State, and a Major League World Series win with the Mets. Who am I? Duffy Dyer. Duffy Dyer, a good friend of myself and of Jason, our guest tonight.
I'll tell you, when you know, and of course we know Cammie Lee Dyer, who is his daughter,
Absolutely.
Girl, who is a Facebook buddy and a wonderful sweet girl. Duffy is the most modest guy. We used to have a Phoenix College baseball reunion lunch with Gary Gentry, Tommy Burgess, Tom Robson, Paul Ray Powell. Remember Paul Ray Powell?
Sure do.
Two-sport All-American out of ASU.
Right.
And Elby Bashong. You guys remember Elby?
I remember Elby, yeah. He played at that Washington Little League.
One day I said to Duffy, he came in, and he's such a handsome, strong figure, very quiet. I said, Duffy, I can't believe it. You won the Little League State Little League Championship. You almost went to Williamsport, but for a guy missing a ball in right field. And then you won the state baseball championship at Cortez High School. I think they won it 3 years in a row.
They did.
Then he went to ASU, like you said, won the College World Series, and the World Series. And he looked at me with a straight face, and he said, Jay, I've been blessed to get to play with a lot of great players.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. But that's Duffy. I grew up having him as a coach when I was a kid. Cammie and I both went to St. Simon and Duke grade school. Her several years after me, of course. But great family. They lived in my neighborhood growing up. Duffy's a prince as far as I'm concerned.
Well, can you imagine that? I got to play with a lot of great players.
Yeah, wow.
And did you know he was the best player on the team?
Oh, yeah. They wouldn't have been there without him.
You don't become an All-American at Arizona State and then get to the big leagues and play, he played 16 or 17 years?
Yeah, 17 years.
Yeah, and then go on to become, he's just, you know what, there's a guy, now there's an All-American guy.
Yeah.
And he was named after, here's another bit of trivia. When he was born in Ohio, his name was Don Duffy, but when his mother had Duffy, the baby, the television or radio show was on called Duffy's Tavern.
I did not know that.
It was an old, like a radio show, like the Jack Benny show.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, Duffy's Tavern was on, we're going to call him Duffy.
That's hilarious. Then we're going to have Duffy as a future guest, and I think I'll bring that up on the air.
We certainly
hope. I don't know
we'll
if anyone cares about that, but I might get in trouble with Duffy for telling that story.
You've revealed his secret origin, Jason. We're going to get to our second topic here, sir. And this is, we actually got a little conflicting viewpoints on this. Dr. Eric over here and myself. Safety in baseball. The commissioner, Rob Manfred, said it's going to be absolutely clear there will be changes as far as safety. We've got some lawsuits happening in the game, and unfortunately, we've had some deaths in the game due to the dangerous nature, you would think, of these baseballs being, hit back, foul balls, and bats now too. It's been a part of the game, but Dr. Eric, you want to give a little viewpoint on this, sir?
I agree, it's a sad thing, but the netting has been the same for over 100 years, and it didn't start happening until the last couple of years as far as people getting that seriously hurt that often. And I have to say, people need to get off their phones while they're watching a ball game. To me, that's the bottom line.
I don't know. You definitely, while I can't argue with that, you also have to say, though, you if you're Major League Baseball, it's obviously an epidemic here that's getting worse. You want to make it as safe as you can for the fans. So This is something that's going to have to be unique to each ballpark because each ballpark's different. But I want to ask our guest, Jason, what are your thoughts, sir? How do you feel on this subject?
Well, I always like to err on the side of safety. Now Eric, Eric is a very modest guy, but Eric, I think you were a star or a very good player at Carl Hayden, right?
Alhambra.
That's right. You guys beat Carl Hayden.
We sure
you were
did.
an Alhambra Lion.
That's right.
Do you remember the batting helmets we used to have?
Yes, I do. I do.
I was looking at a picture of myself the other day. I mean, they were like a little construction hat. No protection over the ears. At least we didn't have it. I don't know about you guys.
No, we didn't have it. You were over there at Central High School. I was at Alhambra. But no, those things, if we got hit in the head, it would have been too bad.
Exactly. So they changed it so that, you'd have the flap on the ears.
Right.
Yeah, I played with those.
So my take is anything that makes the game safer. Like I know we never had the elbow protection.
No.
These guys wear now. They kind of wear those braces or something. Didn't Bonds make that popular?
Yeah, he did.
That's true. The body armor.
But so if they put in the extra netting, that's fine. But then again, Eric, as usual, you come up with a very salient point, and that is if you come to the ballpark, you shouldn't be on your phone.
Right.
Because you know what? When the ball comes off the bat, it's like a rocket, and if it hits you, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, it's going to hurt and do serious damage.
And part of the fun, I don't know about you guys, but I went to do spring training games in Phoenix growing up. I know you did too.
Yeah.
Plenty of them. Yeah.
What do we always do? We run our glove.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, catching a foul ball in a ball game is almost like a rite of passage.
That's right. It's the biggest thing for a kid.
It's as American as apple pie.
Right.
So
you got the ball hawks now.
I agree. Both of you have great points. But I would always, in my view, I would always err on the side of safety.
Yeah, I'm a little bit old school in most of my thinking, as you know, Jason. But one thing I want to mention, it isn't just the people in the stands. The Kansas City Royals had a bat boy this year who was killed by walking by and getting hit with a bat. Mike Moustakas was warming up in the on-deck circle. So that was an on-field thing. And that really hit me hard because when my son was growing up, and I worked for the Mariners, he was a Mariners bat boy for several years. And I never worried about him down there, but that could have happened out of the blue without even anyone planning it or anyone being aware.
How would you guard against that, Eric? That's a tough one there, boy.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any way other than to tell the bat boys, and I did used to tell Brett this, be aware every minute of what's going on and stay out of the way of people swinging bats and playing catch. So he did get hit with a foul ball into the dugout one time, kind of hit him in the chest and knocked him down, but he jumped back up. But anything can happen down there. As you know, things happen fast on that field, Jason.
Oh, are you kidding me? That's one of the reasons why you and I are up in the booth.
That's right.
Jeff Torborg. Remember Jeff Torborg?
I sure do. One of my heroes when I was a kid.
I tell you what, he said something one day that was one of the most profound and intelligent statements I ever heard a guy in the booth make. And I forget who was doing the play-by-play, but Torborg said, he said, and Torborg had just been fired as a field manager.
Yeah.
So he got a job, and he was a fabulous commentator. And he said, from up here, looking down on the diamond, the game looks so easy to play.
Right.
And I thought that was such a great statement because people at home watching on TV, why didn't he catch that?
Yeah.
Man, he should have hit that pitch. Guys, people that say that never played the game.
That's right.
Because it's not easy. And like you said, the ball hurts, it comes off the bat fast, and you really have to be aware, And these guys, especially at the level of the guys we're talking about, they are so skilled. And even the real skilled guys will tell you that you better, like you said, Eric, you better be on your toes.
At all times. There's one other thing that gets to me when people talk about the players need to do this and that. I've had people say to me, well, that's the worst guy on the team. Well, you know what? There are 700 Major League Baseball players. That makes them the top 700 performers in their profession in the world. And I always say to these people, my answer is, are you in the top 700 in your business? Are you in the world? And if you are, you'd get paid like the Major League players do. That's just the bottom line to me.
It's also way too easy. Anybody that knows any team sports game, you win as a team, you lose as a team. One play does not make the game. If everything came down to that one play, it would be ridiculous. You're playing 9 innings, you're playing 4 quarters, you're playing 4 periods. Whatever sport or 3 in hockey, whatever sport you're playing in, it's very easy for a fan to sit there and point fingers. But it's the same thing. The old stupid. Bartman thing. Bartman is not the reason why the Cubs did not win in 2003. You have Bartman was not pitching. Bartman was not fielding. We had another game for the Cubs.
Another game the next night, and I had people say, "Well, their morale is bad because of that." You know what? You're Major League players. You suck it up and go out and win the next day.
Yeah, that's a lot of the accusations of a fan. It's frustrating. Obviously, you're watching a game, but you got to remember that they're human beings. They're not robots. That's part of the game. That's the thing, and that's the thing when you look at instant replay. I'm not a huge fan of instant replay in baseball just because that is the umpire who is, they're going to be the top umpires out there as well. That's their call. It's a quick judgment call, and a lot of times they get it wrong too, but that's part of the game. Instant replay in the game, I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, obviously you're
talking about the review rules.
Just review rules, in general and stuff too, but I think a lot of that changes the game. For sure, and it's just, but it's a lot. It's easier to judge it through the lens from a TV and looking at when you can slow it down instead of actually being on the field and know how hard it is to make a play.
Yeah, and what Jason said is true. Those people that make those kind of criticisms, they never played the game.
No.
Well, I know in coaching Little League, you'd have parents yelling all the time.
Yeah.
Why did you strike out? You've got to hit the ball. You've got to throw the ball over the plate. Why are you walking everybody? And I went over to a mother one night at Madison Little League, and I said, "Ma'am, do you think your son got up this morning and when he was brushing his teeth, he said to himself, I've got a great way to tick off my mother. I am going to start walking guys in the second inning." And that's going to make her mad and start screaming, and oh man, I'm going to really get her mad. And the kids are out there, they're trying as hard as they possibly can.
Yeah.
They're not going to throw the ball over the plate every time. They don't have pinpoint control when they're in Little League. And like as you guys were just saying, in the big leagues, even Trevor Hoffman had an off night.
Right.
Yeah. Even Mike Piazza struck out with the bases loaded. It's part of baseball.
That's right.
And people need to understand that. And I totally agree with you guys about this, about being a GOAT in a baseball game. That one guy, one play can cost a game, because it really is not true.
That's right.
You're going to fail more times, and if you look at even a 300 hitter, he's gonna make an out seven other times. So I mean, it's a game of failures too. So it's just how you bounce back
keeping
from
your
those.
head in the game. Ted Williams once said,
Eric, it's very funny you mentioned the 700 people out of the 7 billion people in your field.
Yeah.
Remember Mike Kelly?
Yes, I do.
Mike Kelly played at Arizona State.
Yeah.
And Mike Kelly and Dave Robson, who is Tom's son, played together at Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave was the captain of the team, and Mike Kelly was the Golden Spikes Award winner 2 years in a row. And he got drafted, I think, by Atlanta, and then went to Cincinnati. You would know this better than me, because you have an encyclopedic mind. But when he was 32, he was out of baseball, and he asked if he could get a walk-on tryout, with the Mets to spring training. And Valentine gave him an opportunity, and I was talking to Mike Kelly. Now, this is Mike Kelly.
Right.
And he says to me, Jay, I had a great college career. I was a good hitter. I could really play, but I just haven't been able in the big leagues. I just haven't been able to get the numbers I had in college. And I said, Mike, there are 7 billion people on the planet and 750 players in the major leagues. You're one of those players. Please don't tell me about not being elite.
Yeah, that's absolutely
right. And he looked at me, and he's a devout Christian, nicest kid in the world. He looked at me and said, "Man, I never thought of that." so it just goes to show you, how good these guys are. But even a guy like that, as good as he is, struggled.
Yeah. They all do at some point.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah. It's all in a matter of perspective how you're looking at it, for sure.
And Ted Williams said, baseball is 90% from the neck up. That's what you have to remember.
Right. That's and it's funny. We were talking about him tonight on the phone, and I think he's the greatest hitter of all time. The
I do
greatest
too.
hitter, not the greatest player. And he's exactly right. You have to be able to handle failure.
Right.
It's funny you say.
Which is something, frankly, I didn't do well.
No, neither did I, Jason. That's why I didn't make it.
Funny you say, one of the greatest hitters in baseball. We're going to go to our last station break. Jason will come right back. We are going to talk about one as we wrap the show up. If you hang on with us just a little bit, we're going to pay the bills one more time, and we will be right back here on The Fast Pitch.
Tonight, let it be Cactus Classics.
Good luck to both of you. Miss Universe 2015 is... Colombia!
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfies.
Okay, folks. I have to apologize. The first runner-up is Colombia. Miss Universe 2015 is Philippines.
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfies.
And we're back. We want to thank our very special guest, Jason Himelstein, as we return here. And you can follow us on Twitter at TheFastPitchMLB, Facebook.com/TheFastPitch. And please like those pages, follow us on Twitter, and also like Craig Best, Facebook.com/TheBestStation. Without our great friend and producer, Craig Best, this would not be possible. Thank you all for listening. We're back here with Jason, and we thank you, Jason, for coming on with us. We got one more major thing to discuss with you.
We do, and this may be the biggest topic of the week. Pete Rose was denied in his application to return to baseball. And people have been talking about this all over the country. We've been talking about it. And Jason, I wanted to get your take on that.
Well, I've known Pete Rose a long time. He was, without a doubt, the greatest all-time hits leader.
Right.
You cannot take that away from him. He played very hard. He played with vicious abandon. He loved the game. He once said that he would walk through hell in a gasoline suit to play baseball. He was a tremendous competitor.
Yeah.
But he broke the he broke the cardinal rule of baseball, which is there's no gambling or associating with gamblers.
Yeah, and you and I have been in a lot of major league clubhouses, and there's two signs in there. One says, what you see here, what you say here, what you hear here, let it stay there. Right next to that is the baseball rule about gambling.
Right, that's right. And, I don't know if our fans know the reason behind, why that is such a cardinal rule and why it's such a hard and fast rule. It's because of the 1919 Chicago Black Sox.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
When they threw the World Series to the Cincinnati Reds.
Right.
And in order to restore dignity and integrity of the game, Judge Kennesaw Mountain-Lannis came in and set down the rules. And, baseball can't have gambling because then it turns into professional wrestling.
That's right.
In other words, Pete Rose is managing, and the other thing that people have never talked about, and I want to get your guys' take because you guys really know this stuff ice cold. But I was thinking about when they say no gambling and no associated with gamblers. But Pete Rose always said he'd been on his own team.
Right.
So presumably he was going to try to win every game with the Reds, and I'm sure that's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what if he got into the bookmakers for $500,000 and didn't have any money, and the bookmaker called up and said, "Hi, Pete, how you doing? Is Danny Jackson pitching tonight?" "Oh, yeah, that left-hander, he's tough. Well, he's going to be on the bump tonight. You know, it's going to be great." And the gambler said, and the bookie says, No, I think Danny has a bad shoulder. Danny's not going to pitch tonight. You're going to pitch so-and-so. And if you don't, I'm going to grab your daughter. Or I'm going to grab your mother, or something like that. In other words, it would give them a way to, and I know it's an outlandish, scenario, but if you're associating with gamblers and you're betting large amounts of money, and you're not, it's not like you're going to a church social and buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it becomes dangerous, and it cannot be tolerated under any circumstances.
Yes. Now, Pete being out of baseball now means also he is not on the Hall of Fame ballot, although I just learned that they are separate. The Hall of Fame doesn't have to follow Major League Baseball rules.
I think we all learned, we were discussing this before we went on the air, and that is, and Commissioner of Baseball Rob Manfred basically made it clear. He said that this ban doesn't affect the Hall of Fame. They follow suit. Right. Basically, the Hall of Fame committee, they follow the rules imposed by Major League Baseball and the commissioner's office and stuff. But they could, in all likelihood, if they wanted to, they could make Pete Rose eligible. Whether he would be voted on, obviously, by the baseball writers is another story. But yeah, they're following suit. So, I mean, I think maybe that's his way of washing his hands of it, because I know people feel one way or the other. My feelings are is if we're judging Pete by his stats, okay? Right. I mean, as a man and integrity, obviously that's different, and I know the writers are judging from their heart, right. I think, instead of maybe their baseball brain, but in a lot of cases, whether they personally like somebody or not, but by his stats and what he has accomplished, Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame.
No question. I want to mention, while we're on this Hall of Fame topic, and before we wrap the show up, we've been talking about travesties. The biggest one, in my mind, the biggest travesty of a man not in the Hall of Fame is Joe Jackson from that 1919 White Sox team. Jason, what do you think?
Absolutely agree. Joe Jackson was an illiterate rube.
Yes.
You can look up the word rube in the dictionary. He was a rube. He was a country bumpkin. Shoeless Joe. I don't think he wore shoes sometimes.
That's right.
Shoeless Joe.
He was just an old country ball player. He was illiterate. He couldn't read. He couldn't write, and he got sucked into the thing. I don't think he got any money out of it.
That's what I understand also.
And that is a horrible tragedy and travesty, and he should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no question. No question.
There's no, in my mind, there's no question about it. And as far as Rose's numbers go, you're right. You can't argue his numbers.
Not at all.
What he accomplished was, based on how many years these guys play today, I just don't think that record is going to easily be broken. You never want to say the record will never be broken, because you never know.
Yeah.
That one, I think, is going to stand for a long time.
Yeah. No, this is something I don't think, Commissioner Rob might make it like there's a stamp and period, but I don't think this is going to stop. I mean, we're certainly not going to stop discussing it. This stuff's going to come up with future guests and stuff, and if we had more time, obviously we would discuss it further. But with Pete, everybody has their feelings on it, of course, but I think, and it depends on if you're going to look at stats, and if you're
look at stats only, he belongs.
Pete Rose belongs.
Let me ask you guys a question, and both of you are tuned and involved in Major League Baseball much more than me. What do you think would happen if they had a referendum vote? If every player in the Major League Baseball could vote, and every person associated with like the announcers and the different management, what do you think? What do you think the vote would be?
I don't believe it would even be close. It would be almost unanimous that he belongs in the Hall. And that's from the people who are knowledgeable, who are inside the game.
Let he who is without sin cast the first stone.
That is correct.
I think a lot of those players, knowing the power of forgiveness, I believe a lot of them know the history of the game and know that Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then he ought to be voted in because, it's my view that some of the people voting don't know as much as people who could be on that committee that could vote, like former managers, former players, maybe even a couple of former umpires,
right.
And have like a real committee and not just the writers. But
right.
I guess that's another show too, probably.
Yeah, it is.
We got to wrap it up, Jason, but we want to send it to you to,
You have a couple things you want to talk about. You've been a great guest. You're a great friend of mine, and I know there's a couple things you do. As I mentioned earlier, I talked about your love and devotion to kids who are trying to play this game. Tell us about that.
Well, I've always loved kids. I was an abused child myself, and I have always been exceptionally sensitive to the needs of kids. Surely, as you know, Lenny, I'm no saint. I'm definitely a sinner, and there's no question about that. I'm an imperfect man, no question. But I love kids, and I want all kids to have an opportunity to play baseball and play whatever they want, to be happy. And I kind of have a buddy named Mario Mejia, who is from a fabulous family in Baus, Arizona. A wonderful mother and father, a great family. I met him by accident. And here's a kid who was playing, 90 pounds soaking wet against older kids. He takes the bus every day from Baus, Arizona. You folks listening, Google Baus. I think there's 18 people living there.
Yeah.
And he's just a fabulous kid, and I've watched him the last 2 years. He's now a junior in high school. He's playing basketball. He runs track. He plays baseball, and he's going to go on to college. He's very, very bright. And it's been, frankly, as I told you, Lenny, earlier, he's done more for me than I've done for him.
I certainly understand that. And he's at Siloam High.
Out there named Ben Johnson, who a very bright guy who played basketball at North Carolina State and for the Harlem Globetrotters, who was coaching basketball out in Siloam. So I wanted to give him a shout out.
Absolutely. And that's Siloam High School, about 60 miles outside of Phoenix?
It's 110 miles northwest.
110 miles northwest on the old Highway 60, is that right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I used to drive that way to go to California.
Jason,
we road to California.
Yeah,
Jason, we love having you on. We know you're on Facebook as well. Do you have a Twitter that you can plug as well?
I don't have a Twitter, but now that I know you guys, I'm going to probably have to get one.
Oh yeah, definitely follow us.
For all of you that are on Facebook, if you look at Lenny's son, who I think just got married,
that's right.
I have ordered a DNA test. Because this kid is actually very handsome.
Thank you.
Yes, we want to see that. We want to know the results of that
soon, and we're going to post the results on Facebook.
Well, Jason, we want to thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And we definitely we're going to post where you can find him if you want to befriend him on Facebook, obviously, as well. As long as he's okay with it, we'll do that with the plug of the show. We want to thank you very much for having you on and thank everybody else for listening here. We have to wrap the show up. Unfortunately, we could fill another show talking with Jason, wonderful guest. And we want to let everybody know. We'll plug him on there. Find us on Twitter at TheFastPitchMLB, Facebook.com/TheFastPitch. The Facebook.com/TheBestStation. Want to thank Craig Best and all you great fans listening. And I want to wrap the show up. I'm MC Brown.
I'm Eric Lenneberg. And thank you all for Jason Himelstein. Thank you all for listening, and have a pleasant week wherever you may be. We'll talk with you again soon.
Thank you very much, Jason.
The great American ballpark where the sun shines all day. Now I'm walking down Riverside, down the Pete Rose Way. The perfect chaos when he slid, the way he made you pay. Every single thing he did the Pete Rose Way. Walk through hell in a gasoline suit, if there's one more game to play. Diving down this boulevard they call Pete Rose Way. He'd be the first to tell you how many outs he made. Never said he was the best, but oh how hard he played. ask about the big red machine, now what would Sparky say? I guess he'd probably tell you that they played the Pete Rose way. Walk through hell in a gasoline suit, if there's one more game to play. Driving down this boulevard they call Pete Rose Way. And Joey